What do you look for? What were you looking for in that assistant general manager spot? What qualities kind of were you looking across to?
Well, timeout. Elena needs a 20-second timeout. Is that the alarm that Brandon Beane's coming to press conference? I beat it. I was on time, John. So I guess what I would say is, first off, you're not gonna replace Joe Shane. We're not, you know what I mean. Joe was a special person who I knew. If I was ever put in this seat, he would be an ideal candidate to be that. And Joe did a great job, and was a big part of helping me get this thing going. And now he's moved on to New York. Ultimately, you're looking for someone. I used to tell Joe this all the time. If I get hit by a bus, you got to be able to sit in this seat the very next day and run it. If not, I've let the organization, the Pagulas, down on what's expected. So you're looking for, obviously, a scouting acumen, but you're also looking for someone who has a feel of the building, who can connect various areas in football operations, whether it's the training room, the strength and conditioning room, analytics, the video staff, the equipment guys. All those things, are under my umbrella. And so you're looking for someone who is kind of your wingman. And when Joe left, I think people said, well, is he going to do it right now? Ultimately, I wanted to see, our in-house candidates were really Terrence Gray and Brian Gaine. And I wanted the three of us to kind of work. Let's see the flow. Let's see how we mesh together. Because if you realize, a year ago, Dan Morgan just walked out of here, and then this year, Joe. So fortunately, we've had some people behind them ready to handle those ranks. But until you get into the fires of free agency and the draft, so that was kind of a test run with these guys. And then, I also wanted to look outside and just see. Ended up interviewing two. Got shut down with another person that the club was able to block him because he was considered their second in charge. But it was tough. It really was. A couple of these candidates were really strong on the outside, but to bring in someone from the outside, it had to clearly be better than Brian and Terrence, who both got promotions in this.
What was it that initially, like going back to when you first hired Brian back in 2017 from out of Miami, what is it what qualities did you see in him from his stint with the Dolphins?
Yeah, and he actually came from Houston when I got him. And then he went back to Houston. Yeah, but he was in Miami. I originally met Brian when he was with the Dolphins, and he was a guy, coincidentally, that Joe Shane had introduced me to. They were working together in Miami, and Joe had said, "Hey, Brandon, this guy's going to be a GM. He's sharp. This is what he does for us." He was the assistant GM in Miami, and Brian's held a lot of various roles, whether it's pro scouting, college scouting. A lot of times you end up with someone who came up one side, on the pro level or the college. The thing that I loved about adding Brian back when we got here right after I hired Joe was we're adding a guy that's not just strong on one side, he's strong on both. And then he has sat in this seat, and he knows some of the challenges that you face. And then ultimately you think you're ready, but until you sit in this seat, things fly at you that you never thought you would deal with. And so I think that helped Brian's case here as well, that he has sat in the seat. I think what happened in Houston with him was more of a power struggle than his abilities. And that's why we quickly brought him back, got him into the program, and ultimately, it wasn't really decided until here recently, after we completed the interview process, that, right now Brian is the best candidate for us, for that role.
And you seem like you're either expanding or diving more into your analytics department. Can you explain the hires and what goes into all that?
Yeah, you don't want to get too big too fast. You want to make sure. So when I got here, we kind of started over from scratch, like we did with everything, scouting. And so, you look around and some staffs are small, some are big. We wanted to kind of build it and grow it, and it could continue to grow, Sal. But let's don't bite off more than we can chew. Let's handle the things that we can do. And so one of the new positions we added is a sports performance data analyst, and it's just really we put a lot into our player health and wellness and keeping guys on the field, tracking everything they do, weight room, on the field, the grass, all that stuff, just trying to keep these guys, you can't really, you can't do much about what I call the car crash injuries, a broken arm, broken leg, whatever it is, but trying to eliminate, unnecessary soft tissue from, over wear and tear, too much high-speed running, all that volume. So it's just adding another layer to what we have to help us track that more, and it ultimately helps us build our practice schedule each week, and it's not just it's individualized so that we can look at each player's practice load, not necessarily the receivers, the running backs. It's, Stephon Diggs' practice load versus Gabe Davis's practice load and beyond.
Think back to when you started in football and think about where we've come with that, how incredible that is, right? I mean, is that pretty amazing, all the even new technology that you're getting all the time, and you can add to it. You have to kind of decipher what is, I'm talking about the stuff you're just talking about, the performance, the analytics, the basic, putting harnesses on guys and things like that, and where it's gone. And all the new stuff, you have to kind of sift through what's right and what's not.
Yeah, you do. You have to, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of information out there. And you have to know what's valuable and what's not. There's a lot of things that you don't use, but ultimately you try and figure out what are the indicators of all this data that you're getting, whether it's player evaluation, whether it's GPS data, whatever it is. But ultimately, we always talk about availability is the number one ability, and we want to do everything we can to have our guys practice as much as they can, to be able to play as much as they can. And we put a lot into it here, and I think we got a good staff of people that really do a nice job with it.
With Terrence now director of player personnel, what is added to his plate, moving up from assistant director?
Yeah, so we had, in the past, that was Gaine's role when we got here, and then Dan Morgan took that role. So, as he's going to be in the circle of trust with me and Gaine here. He'll do a lot of things, but Terrence came up the college route that we talked about. Last year, we promoted him to assistant director of player personnel. Started to get him a little bit of pro, see how he could do, how he could handle that. So he's going to have his full volume of college stuff, but we're going to add, a pretty good volume of pro stuff to expand that. And he'll, when we break up the preseason, he and Gaine will split up AFC, NFC. How we break down the guys, just as we're trying to, pare down rosters and figure out, who's going to come available, who's not, and who do we like to claim and who do we not.
Will Gray still be the overseer of college scouting?
Yeah, he's still going to oversee that, but we have some people there that we're going to add some things to them. Whether it's Lake's our assistant director, so we'll probably have Lake add some more responsibilities. We'll try and take a little bit off of Terrence, but ultimately he'll still run the meetings as our college director from that standpoint, Mark.
And then Steve Sabo.
Mike
Mike
Sabo,
Sabo.
yeah, son.
I covered his father.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was the Southeast, so
Yeah.
who takes over Southeast now?
So we're going to move Tyler Pratt. Tyler is a guy we grew in here, and we started him on the West Coast last year. Did a really good job, and he'll be he'll be young in years to go into the Southeast, but really feel like we can set him down there for a little while and just let him grow. And he's answered every challenge that we've asked of him, and so we just thought this was the best move. So yeah, Mike will kind of take over what Dennis Hickey was doing.
Brandon, have you been given any indication from Jordan Boyer whether or not he'll be here next week, mandatory minicamp?
I have not spoken directly to Jordan. I don't have any indication that he won't be here. So, hopefully we'll get him back in here, and we'll be excited to see him.
Wide receiver, now that you've added Tavon Austin and you've already got a couple of players seemingly to compete for that slot spot, what's your thoughts there on bringing in Tavon? And just as another question, how much confidence do you have in Gabe Davis to taking over that number 2 role, given how his season really ended?
Yeah, I mean, we were very confident in Gabe last year. It's just you had a guy with the skins on the wall that Emmanuel Sanders had, and I think Gabe played a lot, and the thing about Gabe is every time his number's called, and I'm talking about back to his rookie year, every time his number was called, he answers the bell, and so he's been working hard. He's been here, I think every day. If he missed a day, I wasn't here that day either, but he's, nothing seems too big for Gabe every time you give him more, and so we're excited about where he's at. Adding Tavon is just adding depth and competition. That's all it is. We're constantly looking, and you're looking around and you're going, man, we had a workout. We brought in, a couple guys last week, and, Tavon's 32, and you're going, I know he ran, 4.2 something, whatever he ran, 4.27, 4.28 when he came out, which was why he was drafted so high. You're going, all right, what's he look like now? But tell you what, in his workout, he really showed good speed and burst, that he still got it. Day one yesterday, I thought he fit in pretty well. He's been studying the playbook over the weekend. So, John, it's really just adding competition to the group. It's not that anyone wasn't doing anything. We needed to make it stronger there, and so we swapped him out, for the young man from App State.
How do you evaluate the progress of your top 2 picks, Kyer Elam and James Cook?
I think it's really early. I mean, Kyer, it's really hard for some of these guys till you get them in pads, especially a guy that plays press. I think what's been good for Kyer is, even though his probably specialty is press and being physical, you can't do that in these camps per the CBA rules as far as contact. So he's had to work on playing off and less physicality and just working on his feet, his transition, and learning the defense. So he's studying hard. He's working. He's going to have to earn it, though. He's, you got Dane in here who's, going into year 3, and his answer. We talked about Gabe. I think Dane's answered most of the questions about him every time his number's been called. And then James is he's popped in there. He's done a great job. Learning. He's still picking it up. I know. Talked to Josh the other day, and he said James has been inquisitive, asking questions, and it's early. But we're excited about where they're at.
And then Matt Bazergan, he worked with Brian in Houston, right?
He did.
And will he be mostly on the pro side now?
He's going to do both. It's kind of a senior scouting position. It's a role similar to when we brought back Brian, when Brian came back from Houston. So Brian helped us, mainly in the pro in August as we pared down our roster and then looked at what players were out there. And then once we kind of evaluated everybody's practice squads, then we flipped them back over to college. And Matt's going to base out of Houston, similar to the way Gaine did. And so he can cover a lot of the West Coast, Southwest schools for us from a college standpoint, but still be involved as we grade free agency. Matt's got pro and college background himself. He started as a pro guy, but he's a guy that, we had talked about here when he was with the Jets, always just very professional, hardworking, always made a good name for himself. But when Gaine left, I think he was his first hire, so he's been in Houston since Brian had taken that job.
Brian's based here now.
Brian's based here now, yep. Yeah, he moved here last year when Dan Morgan took the job in Carolina. We moved him up here just to kind of have an in-house role to fill that spot, and it's all worked its way out now that Dan's left and Joe's left for him and Terrence to fill those missing roles.
Just for the record, was Brian interviewed or requested to interview for any GM jobs this cycle?
No.
Brandon, we've seen Matt Borswick kind of attached to Sean, doing everything out
Yeah.
there. You know, he's just been a big part of all your operations. How nice is it to see a guy like that move up and be elevated, and just kind of what his role will be, I guess.
Yeah, so Matt's, as you guys know, he's another set of eyes and ears for Sean everywhere, just helping schedules, helping with operational stuff, whether it's training camp, whether it's travel, whatever. He's kind of that liaison to our football ops staff in whatever coaching needs. And so this is just a chance to, promote Matt and show his growth. I hired Matt originally as an intern in Carolina, and I was upset at him when he left for McDermott. I tried to tell him he was making a mistake to go to Buffalo. He should stay. Nah, I didn't really, but I busted his chops for leaving. So it's funny that it all works out. He comes to Buffalo, and then ultimately a few months later I did as well.
Assistant head coach or assistant?
No.
Assistant to Sean?
No, he's still going to oversee those duties. We've just added some things. We've gotten Matt involved in some budgeting things, just some more front office. It's kind of a hybrid role where he does some front office type things, but still his main thing is being kind of that, whether you want to call him a chief of staff or whatever, just kind of that thing, organizing everything for the coaches, the players, and anything that meshes over into football operations. So he's kind of a conduit between both, and we just, you're trying to find that right title, and we felt this one. There's a couple we looked at, but we felt this one best served to the role that Matt's currently doing for us.
You talked about why you added that one analytics position, but I was kind of curious over your time as GM, and different teams have different ways they build that group and how big it is and that sort of thing. Has your stance on it changed? How you use analytics? Like, how have you seen that group grow or change, or why, and where it stands now? I guess how have you seen that grow?
Yeah, I think, when I first got here, we didn't use it in necessarily evaluation process. We just, I was raised, the scouts grade the players, they do that. I use it more, and I say we use it more as a checks and balances. And whether it's game planning stuff, the coaches are still going to follow their eyes, but, we use it from that standpoint with our opponents. We use it when looking at comps for if we're doing a contract for Stephon Diggs or Josh Allen or whoever, we use their analysis to compare it to our analysis. So it's more a checks and balances, but it can point out things that you don't see. We have a grade that our guys put together of a college player, and it's not watching film. They don't know what the player looks like. They just know the measurables, the things that this player, how he tested, and then the production on the field in comparison. And sometimes what comes out is they can point out things. There's no receiver that's ever started in the league with stats like this or measurables like this, and you say, all right, let's check this out. Well, is this an exception player that will overcome that, or is that a red flag we need to talk about as far as the value? Maybe he'll play in the league, but maybe we had him valued more as a starter on the draft board. Maybe we should slot him down a little bit. So it's, I would say more than anything, I use it as a checks and balance.
Did you watch the match, and what did you think of Josh Allen's?
I felt for him a little bit. We've all been there. If you play golf, you get out there, and it's a hard time to fix what's going on. And I would say Josh was probably like that baseball pitcher when he's not throwing strikes. You start aiming a little bit. He was trying to guide that thing out there a little bit, but I felt for him because I know he's better than that, and I know we all know Josh. I know he's going to be begging for them to invite him back so he can prove that he's a better player. But I thought it was fun. They drug it out a little bit. I was getting tired, but I thought it was a cool concept to have. I liked it better with 4 football players versus the previous ones with a pro player.
How do you, we've always talked about it, but we've watched Josh's maturation over the years. I mean, a year ago, he gets his big contract, and now he seems to be almost a celebrity, a nationwide, international celebrity. Everywhere I go, people ask me about Josh Allen. How have you seen him take on that added aura of being Josh Allen in that sense?
I don't think Josh looks at himself that way. I really don't. I think that's what's great about him. I think he's still the kid from Fireball. I mean, I'm around him when he's talking to his parents or his family or whatever. He's just he's the same. He's the same dude. He really is. Obviously, he's matured. He's felt himself. He knows. The thing that I thought he did last season late, when we were kind of doing the ups and downs and we needed somebody to grab us, everybody by their shirt tails and say, let's go, was I thought Josh did that down the stretch. We lost that game in Tampa, but, I heard some of the things that Josh said to his teammates and then so on. Going back to New England, we had to win that game if we were going to win the division, and some of his leadership things that he did leading up to that game and in the locker room pregame and all the way through till we lost, in KC. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen from Josh is he knows, he didn't want to try and tell veteran guys that are older than him what to do or this is what we need to do. I think he was hesitant to do that. But I think the light came on for him. He knew those guys are wanting that out of him, and he's led ever since. He's led this offseason. We've had really good participation, and it starts with your quarterback.
What's the impression been of Vaughn so far off the field, like in the building? Like, what's it been like to have him around?
Yeah, I mean, you do feel his presence. I think you guys probably have felt that too, I would assume. But you feel a guy that's confident, knows what he's done, knows what he still can do and what he plans to do, and I love that he's really taken the young guys under his wing. He said he would do that. Actions speak louder than words, and I was really appreciative that he wanted to invite these young guys out to his camp. I mean, what a cool experience. I talked to a couple of them yesterday after practice, and they just talked about how many notes they took out there and how awesome it was, and they're excited to come back and practice some of the moves that they think they learned, and hopefully it'll translate. Mike?
Yeah, is there any way for you, you've been in the game a long time, to sort of predict when you were talking about Josh and assuming that leadership mantle and then becoming the guy who understands I have to be the voice even though I'm not the oldest guy in the room? As you're going through that process of deciding on Josh years ago,
Yeah.
can you get an indication of that, or is that just something that you have to see how the guy develops when he gets to your building?
Well, I think the indication is, was he a leader at that level? Whether it's high school, he played all sports in high school, and, why was he a leader? Was he a leader because he was the best player? Sometimes guys are the leaders and they don't want to be because they're the best player. I think that's part of it, but I think Josh leads by his actions too, and it's not just his words. He could say, hey guys, let's show up, let's work hard this offseason, and maybe he's in and out, like some guys tend to be this time of year, other than going to the match. And, I think what said a lot to his teammates, he was back at practice on Thursday. Well, we know when that thing ended. It was late here, and getting back here, what message more of how important OTAs are than flying from Vegas back here to make sure he was on the field? He could have just taken the whole week off. But I think all signs pointed to Josh being a good leader in time. I remember Luke Kuechly in Carolina was a guy that we had Thomas Davis there and Charles Johnson, some guys that were drafted ahead of him. But once they saw how good he was and they saw how much he loved ball, and they were open to him taking leadership, but Luke was a little bit hesitant early. But once he did, it was like, and he saw how the guys responded, and I felt that way about Josh really late last season. Like, man, the lights come on for him, that these guys want him to tell them, let's go. It's go time.
You mentioned you bringing in Fitz for a one-day contract?
I don't know what Fitz is going to do. I've, definitely have had conversations if he's interested. I think the thing for him, it'll ultimately be on him. If it's something he wants to do, we would of course listen. Never got a chance to work with him, but have met him once, and what a career, and respect him. And I think his biggest thing is he's played for a lot of teams. I think he wants all the fan bases to follow him and not feel slighted. So We'll see. We wouldn't close the door on that.
You mentioned Luke Kuechly. He was here last week. We didn't get a chance to talk to him. How much of that is him wanting to come back, be around you guys, be around this team? What's the dynamic like with him?
Yeah, I mean, Luke came here last year, in training camp, and he felt the pulse of our team, and I think he really enjoyed meeting with Tremaine, and he had met Tremaine when we went down and scrimmaged him a few years ago in Carolina, and there was a little bit of a bond there, and then getting to know Milano a little bit, being BC guys. And so Luke is all ball all the time, unless he's hunting. And so that's what he is. I mean, he could do anything. Luke could be a head coach in this league. He could be a GM in this league. He'd probably take my job pretty quick. I mean, I've never been around someone that absolutely wants to do nothing but be around ball. And it just, he knows he's got an open invitation here with Sean and myself. And so I hope he'll come back again at training camp. But he's just a great resource. He's so humble. And I know that just talking to some of the guys, they got a lot out of him. I mean, even Bobby Babich, who's coaching year one, Bobby knew him from Carolina when Bobby was a young coach, but this is Bobby's first year as a linebacker coach. I know he picked Luke's brain, which is smart on his part. Who better to learn from than, a Hall of Famer.
What are your thoughts on Ken Dorsey and how he's handled being offensive coordinator so far?
Yeah, I think, Ken, ultimately, he's prepared. Our guys are, getting in and out of the huddle. The plays are ready. The guys are executing. Ultimately, it will be how does Ken translate from play calling, that feel of the game and what's working, what's not. And when it's not working, being able to – it's easy to call plays, I would say. These guys will tell you when everything's working, you're just dialing it up. But those games when they got your number or the plays you worked on that week, how quickly can he adjust and adapt? Is that at halftime? Is that second quarter? What is that like? And I think that'll be a little bit of process. We all have to be open. This is Ken's first time doing that. But you're not going to outwork Ken Dorsey. You're not going to be more prepared than him. I'd like to say I'm pretty darn competitive, but he might etch me out. We've had some competitive battles on basketball courts and things like that. Ken is a fiery dude. And I think our guys will feed off of it.
On passes, I've seen him taking over when Josh was competing for the match. One day he took over and drew as a quarterback.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to his throwing, but he used to do some workout throws for us. But we got Kyle Shermer in here now, so he's the chief thrower for quarterbacks.
Just an update on Tre'Davious White, Brandon, if you can. Everything's still on track.
Yeah, the same. I mean, Tre'Davious is working hard. We'll see when we get back for camp. I think when we show up for camp, I think we'll have a better idea of, is he days away, is he weeks away, you know what I mean, at that point. But he's working hard. He'll be here all summer. Nobody wants to get out there quicker than Trey.